It's an honor to speak to you, Ralph. I've been a fan for well over 3 decades. So
Thanks for having me.
yes, I followed your work for quite some time. So it's great. I did meet you when you came to Kentucky on the 16.6 tour. Met you and Matt. But it wasn't an interview or anything like that.
Been a while, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know you. You. Had our dog with us. Yes. Yeah, we had our dog with us. You keep busy doing so much, and that's a lot what I like to talk about.
Yeah.
First of all, like I said, I've been following you since you were in Gamma Ray, and then I learned about Tyron Pace, which I actually just listened to today. I actually just listened to.
I was a kid, man.
You were just like 18, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Long Live Metal and Watching You are such great albums, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
They still kick ass to this day. I just played both. Believe it or not, I have both of them on CD. I know they're pretty rare and hard to find now, but I do have them.
Yeah.
You were on Noise Records, right?
Yes, we're Noise Records back in the days. We started in the time page. We started with Gamma Records, with the first Eye to Eye
Gamma
was
Records. Okay,
Gamma.
I was on Gamma Records,
and then was the second and the third was Noise. Yes.
Right, and that's like seems like a lot of good German bands at that time were on Noise, Halloween, Gamma Ray, and everything like that.
They signed many bands. Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, my introduction to you was on Heading for Tomorrow. When obviously I'd followed Kai Hansen, forever too. And when I got that first Heading for Tomorrow Gamma Ray album, I was ignorant. I didn't even know that was a Uriah Heep cover.
Yeah.
I was young too, so
look at yourself. I remember. I recall. Yes, because when you play the song a million times in the rehearsing room, then you remember.
Right. And named it's actually an actual Uriah Heep album title, but I only knew maybe a handful of Uriah Heep songs. But Free Time was your own song, right?
That was one of my ideas. Yeah.
It's just so catchy and so fun. And of course, Kai always writes the anthemic songs, so like Heading for Tomorrow obviously made sense.
Absolutely.
And the first 3 Gamma Ray albums are so good. And I think you did such a fantastic job, which is why when Nuclear Blast told me in 1997 that there was this band called Primal Fear and they were putting out this album, I was like, well, who's in it? And they said Ralph Scheepers and Matt Sinner. I'm like, well, I love Sinner and I love Gamma Ray, so this is worth checking out. Yeah. I guess this is what we're now celebrating with this new anniversary edition.
Absolutely, yes. So many years passed and many things happened. But I mean, 25 years. I mean, it feels like 10 years to me.
Really?
Like I said, everybody had a career before that. You mentioned it's Sinner and was Gamma Ray for me and Tyron Pace. Right. So we were out there for several years already. But when we started, it was just like meeting people you have known from the scene here in Esslingen, in my hometown, but never really worked together or talked so much together. But then when I was not in Gamma Ray anymore and when the English job didn't work, you know what?
Oh, you mean when you attempted to try out for Judas Priest? Yeah, I wasn't going to mention that. I don't want to.
Yeah, anyway, don't worry. It's all good. Everything's fine. Everybody's happy. And then they invited me to sing in the studio, sing a choir, and just sit down and talk a little bit. And we just decided to write some songs. And then there was JVC in Japan waiting anyway for some material. We sent a cassette there with 4 tracks, and they signed us right away. And then the European record companies got to know that we are combining us, Sinner and me, and have the songs. And they were really putting out a fight to sign us. And then we had a great position to start in the end.
Definitely. So I didn't want to bring up the Judas Priest thing. I know you're on good terms with Tim and Rob, and that's all good.
Everything's fine. Yeah.
Were your demos Judas Priest demos or were the Gamma Ray demos?
Gamma Ray demos, absolutely.
Oh, so you use Gamma Ray demos? Wow. Yeah. And they're idiots for not accepting you because your voice is exceptional. I know you get compared to Halford all the time, but I think that's limiting in your range. I think you sound a lot like Ian Gillian at times, and sometimes you can hit the Dio range. So I think it's very limited to say, oh, he's a Halford clone. Your tenor voice is unbelievable. I listened to Tyron Pace 3 hours ago, and I wasn't even thinking Rob Halford. I was just thinking this guy can sing.
Yeah, but back in the days, the sound, if I listen back nowadays, it's sounding sometimes really, because now I know what's going on in the studio. I know many skills now how to work in the studio. Back in the days, you didn't. So you just you didn't know that. I always thought, and people always tend to say, hey, Ralph, you sound so much better live. What's going on in the studio? I said, yes, that's the same feeling. And now I know.
Well, and even on this anniversary edition, which I played, I knew it from when I knew it when I had the original on CD on Nuclear Blast, and now I've got this digital promo on Atomic Fire. It's interesting. You hear, is the song Primal Fear? It's not really a song. It's just a sound, right? Like an intro and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you guys decide to do that because you named the album Primal Fear and the band was called Primal Fear, and then you just went right into Chainbreaker?
Yeah, we just titled the intro Primal Fear in the end, and
Right.
we, like you said, we did not have a title, and it's a self-titled album as a first one. I think it's a good idea. That's we all thought it's a good idea.
Because for me, it's always just Chainbreaker's the opener. I mean, I kind of ignore the intro and it goes right into Chainbreaker,
Yeah,
which is interesting. You covered Breaker by Accept, and I'm thinking, wait, Chainbreaker, Breaker. Was that intentional that you put that as a bonus track?
that's coincidental because Breaker was many, many years later as a tribute to Accept.
I thought so. I thought so.
So that was just the song, which was now as a bonus on this re-release.
So it was previously released on the Accept.
And the two live tracks, Chainbreaker and Running in the Dust. But that's coincidental with Breaker and Chainbreaker.
Yeah. And interesting, Running in the Dust. I remember when I first saw that video back in the day, you still had hair. And I was just like, the song is not bad, but the video is just a little, I don't know. But there's so many killer tracks on the album. I mean, God, there's so many good songs.
Yeah.
I mean, you do the Deep Purple cover, and and Tears of Rage is just so epic in and of itself too.
Yes, it was something different back in the day, starting with the keys.
Keyboards, right? Something you didn't do in Gamma Ray too often, right?
Yeah. So that's was very interesting for us as well to explore and to release that song and watch the reactions of the fans, which was overall positive in the end.
Right. And now, I mean, by my count, you've done 15 studio Primal Fear albums. Is that right?
Yeah.
Including the most recent EP from 2021. How do you keep it going after all those years? I mean, now you've had 3 guitarists for almost a decade too. So how do you guys keep it going after all those years?
Yeah, I mean, we are very creative people, and we are 5 songwriters, and we have a pool of songs to pick from every time. So that's a good thing. Even now, we are very, very creative these days because we still not play live because of the reason, because Matt is still ill. Yeah, but anyway, everybody's collecting. And we have a big pool of songs to choose from for the next album. It's a little bit of a pity that we couldn't tour with the Metal Commando stuff, but it was COVID time, and everybody knows what's happened there, so it was not possible.
So are you guys signed now to Atomic Fire for writing new material? Because I noticed this was a reissue on Atomic Fire, because you went from Nuclear Blast to Frontier. When Matt Sinner was working for Nuclear Blast, you were on Nuclear Blast, and then you went to Frontiers for quite a while. And now you're on Atomic Fire for new material. Okay.
Yes, but he did not work for Frontiers. He was just producing.
No, he worked for Nuclear Blast.
Yeah, for Nuclear Blast.
Right. Yeah. I remember that. I remember asking him talking about that. Yeah. So seems like all the bands are going on to Atomic Fire. You recently just did vocals for the new Michael Schenker Universal, and he went from Nuclear Blast to Atomic Fire. And you did vocals on the last Michael Schenker too, because I remember when I interviewed Michael Schenker, he had never really worked with you, and who is this guy? And I'm like, oh yeah, Ralph Scheepers. His vocals are amazing, and then you're such a phenomenal guitarist. So that's good to see.
It's a huge honor for me as well, Francisco. In the end, I mean, I was a fanboy back in the '80s of Michael Schenker. Who wasn't?
Yeah, exactly. UFO and Michael Schenker group.
And
exactly.
It was just something else when they asked me if I would love to sing tracks on it, and I said, "Wow, yeah, bring it on."
And you've done guest vocals on several things and contributed vocals to quite a few things. I mean, you even had that band Black Wielder for a while, right?
That's a long time ago also, yeah.
Right. And a solo album. I remember your solo album too. Yeah. But your focus is Primal Fear.
Got to keep you busy, man.
You are keeping busy though. I mean, if you're already working on new material for Primal Fear, I understand being in the studio because of the COVID and everything like that, not getting to tour for Metal Commando. But still, and you guys still play a bunch of old stuff. I mean, even when I saw you years ago on the 16.6, it was great to see you represent. My favorite album is Nuclear Fire. I think Nuclear Fire is just, I mean, obviously the first album kicks ass, the second album's good, and then Nuclear Fire just blew us all away.
Yes, I think that was pretty good impact. There was also the time when I lost my hair all of a sudden.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just something about the music and the voice and everything. I think by the time Nuclear Fire comes out, you're no longer the Gamma Ray, vocalist anymore. You have Primal Fear has, come into their own. And I know you get compared to the Painkiller vibe, with Judas Priest and some of the faster stuff, but for me, it's just Teutonic metal. I mean, there's so much Accept and Scorpions and Michael Schenker and just all that Teutonic metal going on, and I just hear it.
What about something unique?
Well, you've been in the scene for so long, and I think it's great. Now with the packaging on this reissue, there's going to be like a 28-page booklet, I've heard.
Yeah, I don't know.
28-page booklet in today's day for CDs. That's
there's impressive. Many pictures. There's many pictures. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Will there be lyrics?
I don't know, but I think so. Yes.
Hope so.
I'm sorry, I don't have a copy yet. So.
Oh, you haven't seen the copy? Okay, so well, when it comes to CDs, I mean, I'm still more CDs than vinyl and cassettes and digital. And if I'm going to buy a CD, I want to have like just all the packaging.
You got to give the fans some candy. I mean, they're so true over all those years supporting the bands, and I always consider this as a big family. You got to give them back the loyalty. You got to please them with some candy.
Yeah. Well, and I've purchased Primal Fear albums definitely everything on Nuclear Blast and Frontiers and special editions. Matter of fact, I think even when you guys came to Kentucky, Pamela Moore was with you.
Yeah.
And I think I even got some of her stuff. So I got shirts that no longer fit, unfortunately. 2 killer Primal Fears, including a Nuclear Fire shirt that no longer fits. As I get older, it just doesn't.
Oh yes, I can relate.
Yeah, but you look like you're in fantastic shape. I mean, you must work out besides being in the studio. I mean, you must also do like a regimen.
Yeah, that's a little bit as a change in my day. I need something else sometimes, so it's good to have sport because yes, I'm trying to be healthy as possible, and whenever you're doing muscle work, it's good for your metabolism, and it's also burning fat. So maybe you can eat a little bit more and then go work out, and that's fine.
The Romans said, "Mens sane in corpore sano," healthy mind, healthy body. So
yes.
Yeah. But you also, aren't you a teacher? Don't you teach music and teach vocals, and don't you have a school or something like that?
I'm a vocal teacher. Yes, I teach on Skype and whatever, Zoom or whatever, and I also working in a music school on Wednesdays. And yes, the good thing is doing it online. You can teach the entire world. And well, basically, I do many things about maintenance, and of course, warming up the voice, keeping it in shape, and trying to somehow work out the registers, distinguish the registers, and all these kind of things.
Yeah, and you can hit so many highs. Like I said, not want to compare to Halford, but you can hit so many highs and that staccato. And that, but you're still basically a tenor, right? Because I mean, I can hear you come from here and then go up.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. The good thing is I'm a tenor, but I'm lucky that I also can go very low. And
yeah, you don't do that too often. It's more soprano, but yeah. But still, I mean, that's got to be a strain on your voice, especially to hit some of those highs over and over. I mean, we're not getting any older, and to hit those highs. I mean, listening to this album again after all these years, because I had it on CD and haven't played it, and then playing it digitally, and just hearing these highs, especially like we talked about Chainbreaker, also Formula One. I mean, I remember when I first heard that and the whole auto racing thing, and I was just like, this is so cool. This actually sounds like a real Formula One.
It is one, because I have this CD from a Formula One magazine. And there was the V12 engine on it, and that's exactly what you hear.
There's the zooming sound we hear. I just assumed you were really into racing and stuff.
I was. Yes, I was the biggest Michael Schumacher fan back in the days.
Oh, okay. Were any of these songs carried over from Gamma Ray, or any lyrics per se carried over from Gamma Ray?
No.
This was all original. You and Matt and the team and Tom writing and everything like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So now, is this going to set a precedent for more reissues on Atomic Fire, like a reissue of Nuclear Fire down the road?
Yes, the next one will be Jaws of Death. Then there's going to be Nuclear Fire. So now it's every second year, but of course we also release new albums.
Again, the 25th anniversary of an album I bought when it first came out. That's hilarious. But we talked about the bands that influenced me, like you said, Uriah Heep and all that stuff. So, but some of it just, I mean, like I said, listening to the Tyrant Pace a few hours ago, it's still, I mean, listening Saints of Rock and stuff, it's just so catchy and so fun. It's just hard to believe that stuff is almost 40 years old. I mean, it's just it's just great stuff.
True. Yeah.
It's timeless. I think your band, obviously deserves more recognition. I did see that YouTube had the albums, and I'm trying to tell people to check it out.
Mm.
Just to see where
I
you started.
agree. I agree.
Well, just to see where you started. We all know Kai Hansen came from Halloween, and we all know
Yeah.
Walls of Jericho, and we know Andy Darris came from Pink Cream '69. So it's always good to see where these artists started,
Yeah.
and where they're going from there. But
Tyrant Pace
obviously,
was Tyrant Pace was the first record recording band I was joining, and yeah, it was a good time. It was all learning and collecting many impressions, and yes,
but still,
new stuff.
just great stuff. Yeah, do you ever think maybe Primal Fear might actually cover a Gamma Ray or Tyrant Pace? By the way, I got to ask you, what is Tyrant Pace or Tyrant Pace? I mean, it's got an accent over the end. Is that a
Yeah,
made up term or?
yeah. I didn't came up with the name. It was back in the days. It was 1981. I think the band was formed here in my hometown, Esslingen, and
You were a kid.
I was the same Tyrant. How you pronounce that? That Tyrant Pace. Yeah. So
I thought maybe you listened to Tyrant over and over by Judas
it's
Priest.
like a tyrannic pace,
Yeah, oh, Tyrannic Pace. Okay.
tyrannic pace.
I thought maybe just listened to Tyrant by Judas Priest over and over and just thought, I'll just take the accent off. And everybody's doing something different in the early 80s, putting
Yeah.
umlauts everywhere. We'll put a apostrophe over the end. And what about Primal Fear? Did Matt come up with that name? I mean, was it based on just
We
the
had a
concept
list
Primal
of
Fear?
names. We had a list of names and
Oh, you had a list. Okay.
decided, and we knew that Primal Fear is a movie.
Yeah, with Richard Gere. Yeah.
And it sounds very metal. So
it does. And it's a real thing. I mean, when you're faced with something, it's a real primal fear,
Yeah.
So that's true. And I think that it speaks to it. And to go right into the song Chain Breaker, I mean, it just has that vibe.
Yeah.
So are you finding that a lot of people are discovering this album for the first time?
Not that I know, but there might be younger kids who never listened to the album, and
What even
maybe
more when it came out?
yes, yeah. So maybe they explore and like it.
Yeah. Well, I find myself running into a whole host of Z generation kids that are diligent and motivated and into old school metal, like you would not believe.
That's cool. That's cool. Like, cool.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to pass it on from one generation to the next generation, so they can see, what we loved and what we experienced, and then they can experience.
That's true.
And then that's a very strong legacy to do that. And I'm sure you're doing that with your students, with your teaching too.
Yes, I got many things to tell. So it's not only teaching. Sometimes it's also somehow
Anecdotes,
releasing secrets and releasing experiences and stuff from all over the years.
Oh, that's cool. You share with your students little anecdotes and tour trails.
Not everything.
No, not everything. Well, no, and that's why I didn't want to touch on. I actually told myself, I'm like, I don't want to bring up Judas Priest because I think it's a lot of people bring that up right away, and that's just not something we want to really talk about.
I have no problem with that because, like I said, everybody has a very, very good outcome or a history afterwards, and everything is fine. We all knew that Rob will be back one day, right?
Right. Yeah, of course. And I've read Rob Halford's book and I've read KK's book, and there's so much politics that goes on with Judas Priest as it is. I mean, half the time they don't even get a choice of what they're doing. So,
yeah,
but and it would have been interesting to see if Mike Kiske would have got an Iron Maiden, what that would have been like instead of Blaze Bailey. So, but
yeah, true.
You're like I said, it wasn't meant to be. And had you done that, you wouldn't have done, Gamma Ray's, third album, and you probably definitely wouldn't have gone on to do Primal Fear.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and Tim's done so much outside. He's truly proven that he's just not locked down to Priest. So,
Yes, absolutely. He's got so much variety in his voice. It's just a great vocalist. Yeah.
He was in Brandicide, and it was another band. I'm like, okay. So, and now, of course, every time you turn around, it's like guest vocals, Tim Rip Rose.
Yeah, that's true. But it's the same with me. I mean, you got to keep the fridge filled, and
keep the fridge filled. That's a nice analogy. I like that.
One thing that's surviving, and the other hand, you like metal music and you like help people with their songs whenever they're good for my ears, and I can stand behind the music. I'm open to sing, and yeah.
What about producing? Have you produced any bands, up and coming
bands? I'm producing also. I'm starting to mix also. So yeah. So, but it's not so easy. My room here is just for vocals.
Right,
But
right.
I mean, nowadays many people just program their drums anyway. But
Running
if
wild.
you are, but if you are doing really solid metal albums, you have to record the drums in a big room and that shit. But that's what I don't do. But everything else around vocals, I'm also doing that nowadays.
Any big bands, not big bands, but any good German bands, up and coming German bands that you've
Yeah,
been working
there's some kids coming up and joining in my studio, and I always produce vocals and I also then add harmonies, sing the harmonies to them, and they just sing it on their own. So that's all my experience nowadays, what I can use for producing as well.
Yeah, that tutelage is fantastic, and to impart that on to the next vocalist who's obviously inspired by you, just like you were inspired by Ian Gillian and Rob Halford and Dio and
Yeah,
all that. Must be an honor to share that.
yeah, they have a good time when they're here.
I bet. I bet. I'm sure they probably look up at you as like, just a good, I don't want to say paragon, but just like an icon of influence.
Well, after the first beer, it's over.
First beer, you don't look like somebody who would just chug a bunch of beers and then sing.
After the first martini on the rocks, let's say like that.
So you drink and be merry. That's awesome.
Yeah, once in a while, every weekend, a little bit of gin tonic or whatever. It's just relax and have a good time.
Yeah,
You can't be too strict all the time. But I do understand people who were addicted and who are not allowed anymore. And I have lots of respect.
Yeah, I'm all about moderation and doing things in moderation and enjoying life to the fullest.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Well, I really, like I said, it's just been an honor to speak with you and chat with you. And
likewise, Francisco. Cool.
Yeah, yeah, Francisco.
Francisco. Okay.
Yeah. All right. You take care.
You take care too. So see you hopefully soon, right?
Yeah, as soon as you come to the US, man.
Awesome.
All right.
Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.